Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the most perfect human being who walked this earth, no doubt. If anyone whose memory is to be invoked, if anyone is to be emulated, if any life, behavior, mannerisms is to be imitated, then definitely the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that example. In fact, described by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, that you are of the most perfect behavior and mannerisms. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born an orphan. Imagine that. By the age of 6, he was orphaned again with the death of his mother, left in the care of his grandfather, who then passed on a few years after, and left in the care to grow up in the care of his uncle. By the age of 50, becoming a widower to his beloved wife, Khadija radiallahu anha. Throughout his lifetime, many of his children died, all of his sons and 2 or 3 of his daughters. Imagine that. So having witnessed and experienced all of that, you would imagine someone who's angry, who's frustrated, who's depressed. Yet the Prophet ﷺ was the most perfect of people. His mannerisms and behaviors were impeccable, without a blemish. And one of the attributes that I find quite striking and quite fascinating is the fact that the Prophet ﷺ, despite the harm, despite the offense, despite the abuse, despite all the hatred that came his way throughout his life, he continued to see the best and the good in every single human being that he met. After the trip of Ta'if, which we all know about, and how the Prophet ﷺ was treated so badly, so horrendously, chased out by the slaves and servants with stones and sticks that made him bleed. The Prophet ﷺ was offered the chance that Allah sends His wrath upon those people who dealt with him so horrendously. Yet still, he wished and he hoped and he saw that if not them, then of their children or their offsprings, there may be people who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore he appealed for their salvation. That is one of the most striking features and characteristics of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's an attribute that we would do well to emulate in the life, in the world that we face today, with the hatred, with the divisions that are all around us. Seeing the good, the potential good in everyone whom we meet, in everyone whom we read horrendous statements emanating from their pens or their mouths. That is something that I believe would exemplify the beautiful, fantastic persona and ethos of the Prophet ﷺ. That is my example, and that is who I choose to follow.
مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا